All right, hello everyone, welcome back to the stream. So as you probably saw on the title, or in the title, wrong preposition, I guess. The goal for today's stream is going to just be working on a prototype for the next game that I want to make after Gunforged. Yes, we are already moving on to building new things. Now, does that mean I'm done with Gunforged? No, I'm still working on addressing some of the items, feedback items and whatnot, but there's not a whole lot to do there, and honestly, I'm still doing a bunch of thinking on that, so I figured that it would be more entertaining for the stream to do something brand new instead of kind of waffling around on stuff with Gunforged. So this brand new idea is, so the idea that I have is I want to make, the next game I want to make is an online co-op RPG roguelike. So again, it's going to be a roguelike just because that's much easier as an indie dev to make, but also I think that there's a very large lack of multiplayer roguelikes available on Steam right now, so I think that that can be a really good niche. And just doing something more RPG oriented I think would be a lot of fun. So I have a bunch of ideas. What I'm starting with is I'm just starting with prototyping some combat and obviously getting the network connectivity working. There's a lot of questions that I have to answer, and I'll get into all of those things in just a second here. But before I get started, if you'd like to support my work, you can purchase Gunforged. It's available. It's still on the 20% launch discount. So definitely check that out. Pick that up if you're interested in supporting me. And also consider leaving a review. Gunforged actually has, let's take a look here. Let me bring it up. Gunforged. Yeah, so Gunforged has 26 reviews already, which is awesome. So thank you for everyone that left a review. 92% positive. So yeah, that's great. If you haven't yet tried Gunforged, there's a demo. You can try that before purchasing to see if it's the kind of game that you like. And of course, that 20% launch discount is in effect. So please check that out if you're interested. And otherwise, you can purchase one of my Udemy courses that will teach you how to build a complete game in the Godot engine. The way, let's get started. Hello, Luca. 2 days after release, yes. Hello, Hori Portier. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Polaris. Thank you so much. I see someone's on the grind. Yeah, well, I mean, this is my job, right? So, like, I've got nothing else to do. I do have some fun stuff planned for this afternoon. I'm going out to lunch with my mother. So that'll be fun. That'll be a nice break. But yeah, I've got nothing else to do. I mean, this is my day job essentially. So, truthfully, I'm like having a really fun time. Obviously you can see I started prototyping this last night, and so yeah, it's just fun. It's my job. So yeah, I wouldn't consider it much of a grind. It's just that's what I need to do. You know. Hello, Emerson. Welcome back. Hello, Benja. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that. Thank you. And welcome back to the stream. It's great to see you again. Good morning, Christopher. Welcome back. Hello, who? Will there be a course on multiplayer? The plan is yes. That may happen before the release of this game. I think I have a pretty good handle on multiplayer because when I made Globin's multiplayer, which was a jam game that I made, I got my head around it quite well, I think, but I haven't obviously used any or done any multiplayer programming in a while, so this stream is going to be largely me ramping back up on that and getting back into the swing of things. But yes, I do want to, after I do a significant amount of development on this multiplayer game, I do want to make a course as soon as possible while it's still fresh in my head, so I can pass along all of those multiplayer lessons. Because again, you know, when I learned multiplayer several months ago, there are some good multiplayer tutorials, but they're all very fragmented, right? It's very hard to find a tutorial that teaches you, like, here's how to build a complete multiplayer game with, like, menu lobbies and character name changes, and here's how you synchronize the states properly and do the scene changes, and all of that stuff is very difficult to find in a single tutorial. And so I would love to make a course that just covers everything that I learned and shows you how to, like, step by step, like, here's all the things that you need to do to make a complete commercially viable, like, multiplayer game. But I need to really get my head around it first before I do that content. But yes, I do want to do that. Hello, Mala. Haven't been here in a while and had a lot of work to do on my game. Oh yeah, of course I remember you, Vidra. Welcome back. And yeah, there's no worries, you know. People can hop in and out of the stream as they please. Always happy to have you here. Hello, Splat. Welcome back. So happy for your launch. The game is great. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is really cool. Hope it turns out fun and stuff. Yeah. So let me show you what I have so far. So like I said, all of this stuff is up in the air, but I really do want to make, so I'm going to make a game that has a little bit slower combat. I hesitate to use the word Souls-like, but I want to have like a stamina system, and weapon combo systems. So, you know, I've made this sword here. This is all obviously very, very early. This is me just prototyping, but I've made this sword. It has a 3-hit combo where you do swipe, swipe, and then stab. And then, of course, if you release your mouse button for a little bit, it just resets the combo. See that? And you can see that my character is moving forward a little bit too, so you kind of get locked into the animation a little bit Now, I do want to have animation canceling and stuff and dodging and whatnot, but I want all of this stuff to use stamina or energy. So when you're attacking, you know, that's going to consume some of your stamina. Rolling is going to consume some of your stamina. And that opens up a bunch of itemization possibilities as well, because what I want to do is I want to have like a traditional action RPG paper doll where, you know, you have your equipment screen and you can put on a helmet, you can put on a chest piece, and you can equip weapons and stuff. And the idea is that the overall idea of this roguelike is obviously a roguelike is only going to be like 30 minutes per run or whatever. So my plan, what I want to do is I want to condense the leveling and progression system of a traditional action RPG into like a 30-minute experience that you can play with friends. So when you start the run, you start at level 1 with very basic equipment, and as you kill things, you're leveling up, you're getting skill points that you can allocate into your skill tree, you're constantly getting new gear upgrades, and you're fighting bosses and stuff. So it's going to be... the combat, I would say, is going to be largely similar to how Gunforged works. It's going to be very action-oriented, but like I said, I want to slow it down a lot too. Like, I want to actually make the combat encounters prolonged, so that way, you know, there's elements of stamina management and dodging and managing your health and all that good stuff. So, and of course, any status effects you might have. So if you've got like, you know, the ability to stun enemies or whatever, you know, having opportunities to actually do that kind of thing. So that's not really like a game design, but those are just kind of like the things that I'm thinking about right now. But the most important things that I need to answer, which I'm going to be trying to do some of that on this stream, is networking. So I've set up a bunch of stuff for networking. So the first thing that I've done is I actually have Godot Steam set up. And this is also working with C# bindings. And the reason that I need Godot Steam, well, there's a couple of reasons I need it. Built-in support for achievements and whatnot is obviously very nice, but also being able to use the Steam networking. And I actually have this wrapper here, this Steam Multiplayer Peer. This is a wrapper that wraps the Steam Multiplayer Peer add-on that I have here, and that's a GD extension. And basically what that does is that creates a multiplayer peer extension that connects through Steam. And so this is going to be very critical for the online portion of the game. So being able to go into the friends list on Steam and like right click their name and invite them to the game, right? That's going to be very important. And of course, doing all the networking through Steam as well, potentially being able to host lobbies and whatnot. I think that becomes possible through the Steam networking as well. And of course, that's just what players expect too, right? If I made players have to do like port forwarding and stuff, that would be very bad. So I'm going to be using the Steam networking capabilities and I got all that set up with C#. I haven't yet tested it because I need to pay to set up a Steam app, and then I need to actually have a game that I can test the connectivity, right? So I'm not quite ready to test it yet, but I at least have it all building and configured so that theoretically I can use the Steam stuff. But I'm also using something called NetFox here, and NetFox is a very handy library for networked client-side prediction and server reconciliation. So this is going to be very important because I'm going to design the game such that it's server authoritative, but whoever's hosting the game is going to be the server. But all that this means in practice is that anyone who connects to the person hosting aren't going to be able to like cheat because the host is going to be the authoritative one. But the problem with that is that, you know, if you've got friends who are on very bad Wi-Fi and they experience lag spikes and whatnot, I need a way of making that a better experience for those kinds of players, and that's where the client-side prediction and server reconciliation comes in. So this NetFox library basically gives me a framework within which I can build client-side prediction and thus make the client experience feel very responsive and snappy, even in, let's say, less than ideal network conditions. Because typically what you need to do if you have a server authority is you send your inputs to the server, and the server handles those inputs, moves everything in accordance with those inputs, and then sends things like your location back. So really, when you're a client connected to a server authority, you're only sending your keyboard and mouse inputs, and everything else is an illusion. Everything else is just being tricked. It's like tricking you into thinking that your inputs are actually having an effect in your game, but they're really not. You're basically watching a video of what the server has in its state. Now, that's a very large simplification, but none of your actions are actually taking any effect in your game aside from like visual and particle stuff. All of the gameplay is happening on the server, and then that state is being relayed back to you as a client. And so if you have a very high latency and you try to move, for example, let's say you've got like a 300 millisecond round trip, when I press the A key to move left, there's going to be a noticeable delay before something actually happens on my screen. And that's what client-side prediction is designed to fix. So anyway, I've got to figure out how to get NetFox working in my code so that I basically am just trying to make sure that this multiplayer framework is set up with Steam and NetFox from the very beginning so that I don't get bit later down the line if I go in one direction and then try to implement this later. So I'm trying to get this down initially, and of course, getting this to work with C# is going to be a little bit of a hassle as well. But that's why we're here. We're figuring all this out. So anyway, that's the plan for the stream. So let's see. Yeah, I'll explain explicitly what I want to do here in a second. But let me catch up with the chat. Hello, Momo. It's been a while. I've been working on my game. Yeah, that's fine. Hello, welcome back. Emerson, welcome. The game is so much fun. I wrote a review and talked about the chicken gun, but it's in Portuguese. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hello, Chirag. Just seen your post on Reddit. Gonna buy a game now. Thank you. Appreciate that. Discord also has a game API that does all the lobby and play connection management. It's very interesting. That is interesting. I wonder if Godot would ever support that. Pretty sure there's an app ID you can use on Steam for free. Oh, I'll have to look into that. Hello, Eric Grove. Haven't been able to join quite a while with work. Oh yeah, work. Congrats on the release hat tip to you. Thank you, I appreciate that. Hello, Old Rod. Welcome back. Hello, Winners Studio. I love that avatar. Very nice. Good morning to you as well. Why are you still using C#? Why am I still using C#? Well, I was going to use GDScript, but then I realized that there's actually a bunch of utilities that I've built in C# that are very nice, like my delegate state machine and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm just going to continue using C#. And this game is probably going to be relatively complex as well. So, but if I can't get all this networking stuff working with C#, then I will probably have to switch to GDScript. But that's another thing that I have to evaluate as I build out this networking functionality. C# SDK for Discord's game API. Interesting. Okay. I think I tried it out in Godot. It seemed to work. So how does that work? Let's see. So is that just so like you can connect to games that are being hosted through like the Discord friends list? That sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up, because if I can add support for that as well, that would be nice. Hello, Weslam. Teach us a multiplayer. Teach us a multiplayer, Sensei. Yeah, I'm gonna try. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do here is I need to get a lobby set up, a multiplayer lobby. And I'm gonna borrow what I did for Globins. So I actually have Globins up here. So I've got this multiplayer root, and this multiplayer root is an auto load that kind of manages a lot of the server connection stuff. I'm not sure if this is a good idea still, but I'm gonna copy it and then I'll refactor as necessary. But I don't know exactly which parts of this I need. So I'm actually starting with this main menu here, and there's an initialize server function, and this creates a server. So I need to basically copy this create server here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So let's take a look at what's going on in here. This is UPnP stuff, which I'm not going to need because I'm going to be using the Steam networking. Active port, I might not need that. So basically I just need this stuff here. So instance.multiplayer. Let's see. the multiplayer API instance. So multiplayer peer. Okay. So server peer. Where else am I using multiplayer peer here? Well, that's not good. Okay, so we're going to do one thing at a time. So we've got create client. Oh, I'm just storing. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So this is an auto load that basically just keeps track of what the current network configuration is. And that way I just have a global way of accessing like what the multiplayer peer is. And this is either going to be a server peer or a client peer. So I'm going to need the create client and I'm going to need the create server. So let's translate this code to C#. And we'll figure out how all this works. I haven't gone too far with any of that. Like this is the player script, is very basic. So I don't want to go too far with any of this stuff. Here's the weapon. This weapon handles all the combo stuff. But I don't want to go too far with any of the combat stuff yet, because I need to build the game from the ground up with multiplayer in mind. And if I keep going and prototyping the combat, I don't want to have to go back and redo it to make it work with multiplayer. So, and of course I have to figure out all the NetFox stuff too. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is let's create a scene, create new folder. Let's do auto load, create new scene, multiplayer. I'm going to call this manager instead. Okay, let's go ahead and add a script. Multiplayer manager, boom. Scripts. Game.autoload. Okay. So let's do this. Public static void create server. And then I'm here, private static multiplayer manager instance. I don't need this, so I'm going to get rid of that, but I am going to keep this. Instance equals this. Okay, so we got our create server, and then let's do public static void create client. Okay. It piggybacks the client that's running on your computer and then uses that to talk to the servers or lobbies. And of course, it shows people on your friends list that are also playing the game. Oh, that's very cool. There's joining and all that. That would be, yeah, that would be interesting. I'm going to look into that. Thank you for your donation, Snup Bill, with the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Always very generous. And of course, we have the Yummers message. And yeah, to those of you who are watching the stream anew, you missed the Yummers lore, so that will remain a mystery. But okay, so we've got create server. So what am I doing in here? So this is relatively simple. We create a new multiplayer peer. So let's just go ahead and C#ify this. New enet multiplayer peer. And we're gonna, of course, we need to do this camel case here. So we need a port. So I'm just gonna create a default port. Who knows the Minecraft port by heart? Right, 25565. So it doesn't matter what port I choose because it's localhost. I just need to use a port that's not being used right now. So there's my port, and then let's see, server peer, create server. We gotta pass in the port. Max clients, we might as well set max clients to 4 here because it's only gonna be up to 4 players, I think. Anything beyond that is gonna be a little bit difficult. So instance.multiplayer peer is equal to server peer. Whoops. Okay, so there's our create server. And then let's go ahead and copy this create client as well. What the heck is this? That looks like a garbage line. So I don't need that active port, so let's do this. Var client peer is equal to new enet multiplayer peer. client peer.create client. So we need the IP now. Where's that coming from? IP string port int. So let's just do private const string localhost 127.0.0.1. I don't think the plain localhost works for some reason. I think you need an actual IP for the Godot connectivity. And then port, we're going to do port. Okay. So now we got to set the multiplayer peer as well. Instance.multiplayer.multiplayer peer is equal to client peer. All right. So that's that. So let's take a look at my globins now and see what else we need to do. So the main menu here, that creates a server. Now let's see, client. So we got create client in here. So on join multiplayer button pressed, that creates client. Okay, so now the question is, what happens after that? Let me go to my 2D here. Okay, so that creates the server there. So then this should go to the multiplayer lobby menu here. Now I'm not going to copy all of this. I just want to make sure that I'm following the logic properly. So initialize server. Okay, so it is changing to this scene here. What I'm curious about is, how is the client connecting? Create client. Let me run this. I don't know how the client is getting into that lobby menu. Is this playing sound? Let me see. I probably want to disable that. With the Steam app ID 480, you can use the join to match and all these things. Just so you know, you don't need to have a real app ID to build a stream. Oh, very nice. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hello, Matthias. Do you have plans for the multiplayer Godot GD script course? Yes, I do want to do that. But first, I need to become an expert in such things. Dobbin and bobbin. Okay. So on join multiplayer button pressed. So I must be missing something here. Maybe there's a signal that handles the transition. So on join multiplayer button pressed. Yeah, I don't know how it's actually transitioning. It's creating the client here. Oh, you know what? Let me think. I think your message got deleted, Matthias. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know what this is referring to. Hello, Shaban. Hope everything's going well. How's the game sale going? It's going good. I would consider it a modest success. You know, assuming that not a whole bunch of refunds come in. I think that this the sales are going to extend my runway by like 2-ish months. So previously I was, you know, I basically have until the end of the year based on my current budget projections, but now I have, assuming the budget holds, I have until next February. So basically the sale extended my runway from 10 months to 12 months. So I've got a year. I've got a year to build this game and get it out and make this game sell money too, or sell a lot of copies too. That's all that I need. You know, just keep extending these things by a few months at a time, and then eventually, you know, we just keep going. But yeah, I don't know actually where this transition is happening. I'm actually very curious on how this is happening. Hello, American. Congrats on the new release. Thank you. I want to check it out sometime as I enjoyed roguelikes in the past. Question, is this an older project of yours or a multiplayer template? This that I'm looking at currently is an older multiplayer project called Godot. It's actually on my itch.io page. So if you want to play it, it started out as a jam game single player, and then I took a week and converted it to multiplayer. But that's what the code that I'm looking at right now, and I'm just trying to figure out how I structured the sort of networking flows. And I'm trying to just minimally port that over to my new project here, which I just started last night from scratch. So yeah, that's what's going on. But I'm actually kind of puzzled here. There's a mystery. So in Globins here, when I run the game, I do, you know what? Let me see. I think there's probably somewhere where the network state is being listened to. Hold on a second. So let's see. Join multiplayer. I think that there's a listener somewhere. Yeah, here. Multiplayer root instance client ready connect. On client ready. Change difficulty. If multiplayer root is server. On peer disconnected. So I think multiplayer root instance client ready. Multiplayer peer disconnected. Why are those? Okay, let me search for client ready here. Oh, this is a custom signal that I have. Interesting. Okay. Let me see if I can find change to scene here. Multiplayer root. Main menu. Yeah, so if I do multiplayer host, that I know how that flow works. I don't know how it's changing to the lobby scene when I click join. I don't know where that is. Multiplayer lobby menu. So initialize server, that's where that's being called when the host button is clicked. This initialize server here. And that's where this transition is happening. Fascinating. Something so simple. This is the only place where this transition to this scene is happening. The other thing I could do potentially is see if this is used as an export variable anywhere. So let me look at that. View owners. Nope. So there must be some way that this is being synchronized. Maybe I should look at my multiplayer root here. Scene root. Oh, wait, here we go. Wait a minute. On peer connected, change to scene, current scene path. That's what it is. So what's happening is that when a peer ID connects to the server, it is forcing that peer to go to the scene that the server has loaded. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So I'm not sure that I want to do that. And this is happening in the multiplayer root. So that's how I keep the scene synchronized in Globins. I'm just thinking, is that the way that I want it to work? RPC ID, peer ID. I think that makes sense. I'm sure that will bite me later on, but so I do change to scene. Authority, call local, reliable. On peer connected. and it is server here is active. And instance multiplayer is server. Okay. Why is this called? Let's see. So this change to scene is being called locally as well. So authority. Only the authority peer is allowed to call it. Yeah, okay. So what this is essentially doing is this is calling it's a remote procedure call. So it's reaching out to the client with the peer ID and with the current scene path. So that's the path here. The peer ID is the client that just connected. I think call local is here because I'm using this change scene elsewhere. Yeah, so this instance change scene. Okay, this is a little bit confusing. This might be not something worth duplicating here. Okay, so let's go to the new project here. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new, let's just create a menu here. Very, very simple menu. We'll call it main menu, I suppose. Scenes, create a new folder UI. Okay. We need a script for it, folder UI. Sweet. Any recommendations you have for anyone that wants to break into releasing games on Steam? Also, congrats on a new release. Let's go. Thank you. So let's see. Game.ui. Any recommendations you have for one to break into releasing games on Steam? Well, I can tell you what I've learned. I wouldn't consider myself a super great authority on releasing games on Steam, but so a trailer, getting a good trailer is really important, and there's a lot of resources online for how to do that. Good trailer is very important. Writing a good description is very important. But also, I would say that making strategic use of the next fests appears to be very important as well. One of the mistakes that I made with Gunforged is I entered it into a next fest like a year and a half ago, and before the game was basically ready to be released. And it got a lot of attention then, but also it didn't, number one, it didn't release for a year and a half, so any wish lists that it gathered are cold. And also, I didn't realize at the time that you can only enter one next fest. So I think I can share with you what my strategy is going to be next, is that I'm not going to enter any future game into a next fest unless I'm like pretty positive that the game is not going to change much, unless I'm pretty positive that the game is going to release within a couple months of the next fest. Because then it just becomes a really nice way of like having your demo featured in Steam. You can gather a bunch of wish lists, and then while those wish lists are hot, you can release the full version of the game, right? So using it much more, like I was using it mostly as feedback, but I think it's more useful to use it as marketing instead, if that makes sense. But like I said, I'm not an authority on this, so I'm just trying to share with you what I've learned and what I think I'm going to try next. But everything else is pretty straightforward. I mean, obviously you have to make a good game that people want to buy, but that's easier said than done. All right, Matthias, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I will definitely let you know. You probably already got this question. Any reason you're using GDScript for this project as opposed to C# with Gunforged? Also, congrats on release. I'm using C# for this new project too. The code that you were looking at is an old project that I did called Globins, which I wrote in GDScript, but I will be using C# for the new one. So at least as long as I can. It's possible that the networking add-ons that I'm using will have problems with C#, but we'll see. There's an offline multiplayer peer that always returns true for is server. No shenanigans with branching RPG and non-RPC versions. Yes, I think I am using that in Globins because the game is built multiplayer like Globins is. It wasn't built from the ground up, but I retrofitted it with multiplayer, and I think I am using the offline multiplayer peer somewhere. yeah, so I have this is offline. I don't know why I'm assigning that here. Oh, yeah. So I think I create an offline multiplayer peer when I'm doing just a single player, because Globins is you can play it single player, you can play it solo, and I think what happens is that I create an offline multiplayer peer, and then all the networking just stays the same. So you can write your code as if it's multiplayer and then just have the offline multiplayer peer, and it's still like basically a networked game. It's just not actually doing anything. You know what I mean? And by the way, that's how like Minecraft and whatnot works. Minecraft it's basically starts a local server even when you're playing single player, and that's why you can, like, for instance, open up your game to LAN and have other people connect, because it's like it's still a multiplayer game. It's just that when you're playing offline single player, it's like a local server, right? You are welcome, Jewel. Jackie Daytona played Gunforge yesterday with the smoothest of pixels. Yeah, do you like that setting? I think a lot of people were happy with it from what I could gather, but okay, so anyway, back to the menu stuff here. So let's add a margin container, full rectangle, add a VBox container, layout, container sizing, shrink begin, shrink center. We're going to add a button here. This is going to be the host button. Then we're going to add, join button. Let's mark those both as unique name. Join. Okay, project settings. Change this. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and write some code in here. Node private button host button. Node private button join button. Override void ready. Host button dot pressed plus equals whatever on host pressed. Join button dot pressed plus equals on join pressed. Okay, so private void on host pressed. We're gonna do multiplayer manager dot create server. Private void on join pressed. Multiplayer manager dot create client. Okay, so that should be relatively easy. Now what I'm going to do in here is public override void ready. Multiplayer dot peer connected plus equals on peer connected. Private void on peer connected. Int peer ID. Is that what it is? I wish there was an easier way to tell through that what the arguments are, but I can just do this, that's fine. ID int, what the heck? Okay, I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, what the heck? Peer connected event handler. What am I missing? What am I missing? On peer connected, int. Huh? Is this a bug? Hold on. What am I missing? Hello, Mel. Welcome, welcome. By the way, smooth pixels are cool. Love that setting. Awesome. Glad you like it. Yeah. I toggle between the two, but I've left it on smooth for the moment. It's easier to read the text for me. Yeah, a lot of people said that. So how do you plan to handle the lags? That's a good question. So I explained earlier in this stream. I'll just go over it real quick. I'm going to use a client-side prediction and server reconciliation that's offered by the NetFox add-on here. So I'm going to be using this framework to make client input less laggy, and I believe that that also handles cases where lag happens. So basically, that's lag compensation for like variable latency or high latency connections, and then it also has the ability to support rolling back to previous states on the client if for some reason lag needs to be compensated for. So yeah, that's what I'll be using. I don't have any idea how to use NetFox. I read the docs this morning, or I read a good chunk of them this morning, but obviously I'm not going to really have a good handle on it until I get into it. So excited for this, mostly because once you've worked with multiplayer, well, there's a small chance you'll make a Udemy course on it. Yes, I want to. Thank you also, Joshua. I very much appreciate that. Ju Games, yes, new game. Yep. What's your setup for VS Code Godot integration? Well, I'm using C#, so there's not that much between VS Code and Godot happening here. I do have like debugging configured, but the Godot docs show you how to configure that, I think. Your method, not the same as a delegate you want to use. As I saw, there are 3 arguments, but you provide a method with 1 argument. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I don't think so, because multiplayer, let's see. Multiplayer peer. Oh, wait, no. Maybe I am connected to the wrong one. Yeah, so multiplayer, this is like a static property. Peer connected dot connect on peer connected. There's only 1 argument here. And if I look at the multiplayer here, this is an instance of multiplayer API. Peer connected only takes, this is a signal, it only takes 1 argument. So yeah, I'm not sure. Does this need to be a uint? It doesn't need to be a long, does it? Oh, it needs to be a long. There you go. Okay, it needs to be a long. Think multiplayer is worthwhile from a small business point of view. I hear they aren't as profitable for more work. I don't know. I mean, I don't have enough experience to answer that question, honestly. I think that my experience working with globins is it's actually, if you're building for multiplayer from the ground up, it's actually not that hard. It does take a little bit extra time, just a little bit, but if you build it with multiplayer in mind from the beginning and you're just very cognizant about every new feature you're adding being compatible with multiplayer and everything and working, it shouldn't add that much time. And this is not like a massively multiplayer game. This is not going to require multiple players. It's mostly just going to be a selling point. So this is going to be a game, at least, you know, I'm talking as if it's going to be a thing. I'm still prototyping. I still need to figure it out. But this is going to be a game where you can play it solo if you want. Like, I want it to be still a game where you can just purchase it and play it by yourself. And like, that would be totally fun. But I think there's going to be a massive selling point here, which is that it's online co-op. So you can buy 4 copies and give 3 copies to your friends, and then you can all hop in together and play, because there's not a whole lot of roguelikes, especially like action combat roguelikes that have like built-in multiplayer capability. They're starting to become more popular on Steam, but I definitely think that that's a niche that can be filled, because me and my friends, you know, when we're thinking of something to play, you know, first of all, the whole suite of multiplayer games is rather limited anyway, in terms of like the genres that are available. So like first-person shooter or like MOBAs or whatever. But there's like, of the cooperative multiplayer games, there's not a whole lot that are interesting to us. So we've been playing Heroes of Hammerwatch 2 recently, and that's really fun, mostly because of playing with your friends. I don't think I would play that game solo, but playing it with a friend is a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm kind of banking on, yeah, the additional effort that's required for multiplayer, I think is just going to create a huge selling point for the game, which is like, hey, you know, it's a roguelike, and maybe it's not the best roguelike in the world, but you can play it with your friends, and that's going to be a huge, you know. Anyway, that's how I'm thinking about it, so I don't know. Hello, Neozoid. Have you watched the video from Best Indie Game? Gunforge is also featured there. I have not. I'll have to look that up. Int R long. Yeah, it was a long. Int and GDR 8 bytes. Interesting. Okay. So it's a long, so I'm just going to do this. gd.print peer ID. And I want to check if this is a server. Let me go back to what I'm doing over here. Yeah, so on peer connected, this is handling scene changes here. But I should actually see 2 prints. So if I go to here, project, customize run instances, let's do enable multiple, boom. Okay. Project settings, window. How am I actually doing this? I definitely want the windows to spawn separate from each other, like I did with globins, but I'll look up how to do that later. That is going to be an unnecessary distraction. Oh, this is going to get annoying though. Okay, so I'll host on this one. I got an error already. Objects reference not set to instance of object. Okay, why? Instance equals this. I'm already running into errors. Oh my gosh, this game is already... Oh, is this server peer? Is this creating an error maybe? This might have an error. Let's try this. New game already, let's go. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. What is it, we see? Was that your name? I don't remember. Autoload not set up. Oh, there you go. Yep. Thank you, Splat. Always forget the auto loads, don't I? Thank you, thank you. Scenes, auto load. Can we get claps in the chat for Splat? Claps in the chat for Splat. All right, multiplayer manager, there we go. Thank you, thank you. I remembered, yes, very nice. So we host that, that looks good. And then if I, let's see, do I have any outputs yet? Let's see, output. Network performance enabled. Oh, that's from NetFox. Okay. Join. I see. So nothing happened. Okay. Actually, I'm going to do this. Project. General display. Let's get rid of this. Make those windows smaller at least. 1280 by 720. Thank goodness that I have a 1440p display. There we go. So we've got 2 peers printed here. This NetFox debugging is a little bit annoying. I wonder if I can disable that, but So this is the client peer and this is the server peer. So this one here and then this whatever that number is. So that's working. So they both receive the on peer connected signal. Now the thing is, I want to, when I call host, I want to move into that this main scene here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to try to do this without the built-in Godot multiplayer synchronizers, at least for the scenes, because when I was doing Globins, using the built-in multiplayer synchronizer nodes for like scenes and whatnot, like did not work. There was all kinds of race conditions and everything. So I'm going to be managing a lot of the multiplayer like node structure setup and tear down myself. And then using the NetFox's synchronization tools probably more than the built-in Godot ones. So this main menu here, let me think. I have in here this scene root. Am I actually using that at all? I am using scene root. So I've basically created like my own change scene functionality that I can manage myself here. I don't think I want to do that just yet. I don't think I want to do that just yet. So I will do that later. For now, what I'm going to do is on host press create server. That's going to create that server peer here. Res scenes main.tscn. So we're just going to try this at first. We're just going to take it nice and slow. Okay, so there we go. And obviously this join is not going to do anything because we're going to need to synchronize that now. What's the next step here? So on join pressed. The other problem is I get into this mode where I try to think of like how to architect things, and I just need to get it working first before I try to think about whether it's a good way of doing it. So I think on this join pressed here, what I will do is it would be useful to try an RPC here. So let's do this. Do I want to copy this is server here? I probably do. Let's copy is server and is active. So that is active function there. What it does is it's basically just make sure that the connection is not disconnected. So public static bool is server. And I know that there's a built-in Godot way of checking the server, but I'm doing multiple checks here. So return public static bool is active. I may end up changing this later, but we'll see. Okay, and then is active, return instance.multiplayer multiplayer peer get connection status is not equal to enet multiplayer peer connection status connection disconnected. There we go. Okay, I don't know why it's giving me that. Okay, so now I can do if is server. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to send an RPC. So maybe it would be useful to do like a public static void change scene. I'm just going to hard code it for now. Multiplayer manager. So this is where I need the RPC, I think. Change to scene RPC ID. So I don't know how to actually do this in change to scene. Wonder where this is being called. Oh, it's being called everywhere. Okay, I don't know how to do the RPC in C#, so let's see. RPC mode dot current multiplayer authority, which is the server by default. So this RPC can only be called by the authority. So in other words, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm a little bit rusty on how this works, but I think basically on all the clients, this change scene is going to be under the server's authority. So when I call a remote procedure call to this change scene, basically this can only be called from the server. So the server is going to do a remote procedure call to all of the clients that says change the scene, but the clients are not going to be able to call this. I mean, they will be able to call it technically, but they're not going to be able to send a signal or a remote procedure call to the other clients or to the server to call it on the other instances. So that's what that means. So only the server can call that. And what do I need? The next one. What was it? Call local. I don't know why I have call local there. I'm sure I will find that out soon enough. Transfer mode enum. Yeah, so this needs to be reliable. Is this reliable by default? I think it's unreliable by default. Does not contain a constructor that contains 4 arguments. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at the Godot docs. Do I need to do multiple RPC annotations? Is that how it works? I do not know. Oh, I see. I need to actually specify. I need to actually provide the name of the properties in here. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, so then I can just say transfer mode. So I don't need all this goofy stuff here. I can just set transfer mode is equal to that. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Okay, so I can call change scene. So now what I can do is, how do I actually make an RPC call in C#? That's another thing. Method name print once per client. Okay, so I can do RPC and I can do ID with a peer ID. So I want to do that. So I want to send the remote procedure call to the peer that just connected. And I'm going to call multiplayer manager dot change scene. Nope. So this needs to be a string name. Do I just do name of? That doesn't seem right, does it? Oh, wait. Can I actually use method name here? Like the docs say? Method method name dot. Oh, look at that. So Godot is automatically generating method names for me. Oh, very nice. Okay. Okay. So RPC ID, peer ID change scene. So as soon as the client connects, the server is going to send that remote procedure call to that client, telling it to call the change scene on its end, and it's going to change that scene to file. So let's see if that works. I learned to like auto loads, but I still added static instance assignment in the class. Yeah, I think Godot auto loads with the C# static or even GDScript static functions is pretty nice. Okay, so that didn't work. Unable to get the RPC configuration for the function change scene at path root multiplayer manager. This happens when the method is missing or not marked for RPCs in the local script. What? Oh, I do need to call local. I might need call local. Actually, do I need that? No, because on peer connected does not happen when the server gets created. It's only when a peer gets connected. So yeah, I'm sure I'll need to change that later, but all call local does is it basically makes it so that, you know, like I mentioned, the server is going to be authoritative, but it's also going to be a player. And so whenever the server needs to call an update for a player, it will also need to call it for itself, right? It's not just doing remote calls. It's going to also do a local call to update its own player that it has. So it's kind of weird because the server is going to be a server and also controlling a player. And so in that situation, you need to use call local a lot. At least that's what I found with Globins. What is the game's name? I have no idea. I have no idea. Thank you, Mikes. I appreciate that. Do you believe that creating the courses and the lives improved your way of explaining technical stuff and soft skills? I guess so. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, maybe. I think I've always kind of had, I think, a knack for teaching. I've certainly gotten better. I'm not going to say that I was always good at it, but yeah, I think so. I think it certainly hasn't hurt, but yeah, I've always liked teaching, so yeah. You might be the goat of Godot C#. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. As I'm struggling through these issues. No, I thank you. Thank you. So, unable to get the RPC configuration for the function change scene at path. I don't know what that means. RPC authority call local reliable. I don't know if I should very closely match this scene changing code. I'm just trying to get it to work, but I'm very wary that this is probably not. This is probably not what I want to be doing, but that's fine. Change to scene. Oh, interesting. So wait, this is not actually an auto load in my game here. Oh, this is interesting. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing here, but this multiplayer route is actually not an auto load here. I think that this multiplayer route is loaded as the run scene. Yeah, the multiplayer route is loaded as a run scene, and then when that's ready, it starts doing the scene changes. So I don't like how this multiplayer route has two functionalities. Basically, it's storing like multiplayer information, but then it's also handling scene changes. I would probably change that. I would probably put a separate script on the scene root here to handle scene changes. But yeah, so that makes sense. But why RPC authority call local reliable? I don't know why that one issue is happening. Get rid of this. If the node's multiplayer cannot be fetched, such as when the node is not inside the tree. What does that mean? So this is the error that I'm getting, unconfigured. Is it because it's static? Oh, it's probably because it's static, yeah. That's probably why. I don't think I'm going to be able to remote procedure call static methods. That's probably why. Okay. Let me just make sure, actually, I can check that hunch up here. So I've got this changed to seen as static, but I bet you, yeah, this one is not static. Okay. Static methods do not work with remote procedure calls. So that's good to know. Now I don't have the method name anymore. Really? Why did that method name go away? Is it supposed to be private? If I do private, do I get that method name back? I do. Why is it not? Am I not supposed to be using public methods here? That's odd. Well, I can try this then. What is this called? Call local is equal to true. So instead of calling that change scene here, I'll just do it after I create the server. This is not gonna stay. But what I can do is I can do RPC instance.rpc string name method name dot change scene. Again, this is gonna change. Sends a remote procedure call to the request. So I probably want to do RPC ID. It doesn't really matter because RPC would send it, it's going to send it to all connected clients. Of course, when you're creating a server, there aren't going to be any connected clients, but I think it'd be safer just to put in the server ID here. And I might even do this just for some niceties. Public static long, or not static, public long multiplayer ID. We're going to do instance dot. I don't need to do instance. I can just do multiplayer get unique ID. Then I can just do multiplayer ID here. Or not. Why is nothing working? Oh, because it's static. It's not static, I mean. It's a little bit, I could have just put one in there, but in the interest of avoiding as many magic numbers as possible. Okay, so that's gonna call change scene here. And since call local is true, it's going to be calling it locally. That's going to change the scene to file. Perfect. Okay. I think that will work. So now I should see when I start it up. Oh, you know what? I still have an issue that I need to fix. Oh, no, I don't. So now hosting takes me into the scene, and if I click join, that takes me into the scene as well. All right. So obviously we have no networking in place for the actual player here, but the fact that they're both being connected to each other and the characters are being rendered, or the scene rather is being rendered, that's good. But now that I've got that in place, so in order to set up the server authoritativeness, I need to gather inputs from both players. So even though this instance over here is the server, it's still going to behave as if it's a player, right? We still want all the players to behave basically the same with respect to networking. The fact that this happens to be a host as well is kind of irrelevant. We're going to have all the players gather up their inputs and send the inputs to the server. It's just that when you're running on this one, it's as if you're sending inputs to localhost. There's going to be like no network lag because this is the server instance as well. But it's still going to be using networked calls to send inputs to the server. And then once all the inputs are sent to the server is going to be the one that moves each individual player and handles their inputs. And then once that server handles all those inputs and does the state changes and everything, then anything that needs to be updated on the clients will be updated. So typically, I think the way I did it in Globins is that there's actually not that much to synchronize. It's mostly just synchronizing the position of bullets and the players and spawning the correct effects when the effects need to be spawned and all that stuff. But the players, if I'm not mistaken in Globins, let's see. I don't think that they actually manage their state machine. So if I look in here, yeah, so check this out. So I've got a state machine in here. These are my players in Globins here. I'm adding all the state machine states and everything and doing some stuff, but you can see here I've got a return midway through here, and that return is happening before any of the relevant signals are connected to. And the reason is because I actually don't need to listen for any like game events on any of the clients because all of it is being done by the server. So if we're not running as a server, then we're not going to connect to any of the hurt boxes. We're not going to connect to any of these. We're not going to connect to any of this stuff because it's all related to gameplay stuff that's all being managed by the server. And then in the process method, I'm calling stateMachine.update. And you can see in here, if we're in the normal state, this move and handling input stuff only happens if we're on the server, and this is for every player. So there's going to be multiple players on the screen, but it's only the players that are on the server's end, the player objects on the server's end, that are going to be actually updated. Now, these cosmetic things like this flip and whatnot, these are purely cosmetic, and so these can be done on the client side as well. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Animations and effects and all that stuff can be done on the client side purely, and that will need to be synchronized in some cases, or I guess in every case. But now the question I have is, how is this state change actually happening? Change state here. So you can see that this change state has an RPC, and this is calling the it's calling that state change when an event needs to happen. So where is that actually changing? Yeah, change state.rpc. So this handle special input small. So that was happening in up here. So state normal, handle special input. It's checking for the special input pressed, and this is a synchronizer, input synchronizer component. So basically all the client players, they're in the level. The only thing again that they're sending to the server is inputs. The server is handling all the logic for how the players are moving, and the clients are only sending their inputs. And so this handle special input here is checking if the client sent a special input pressed to me, then I am going to call handle special input small. This is all kind of weird because of the way the game works, but so you can see that what's going on in here is that this is entering the dash state, because there are 3 different player sizes. I won't get into it, but basically there's a dash state here, and this is calling change state on all of the clients. So this remote procedure call is being called on all the clients, and it's being called to change to that state small dash. Let me see. Is that how it's working? Yeah. So this change state, so this state change is being induced on all of the clients by the server, because this is an authority. So basically, all the clients have a change state function, right? All the clients have a change state function, but this is a remote procedure call, and it can only be called by the server. So basically, the server is saying, send me your inputs. I've detected that you want to change. Why am I so bright? I've detected that you want to change your state to the dash state. And so what I need to do is I need to tell all of the clients that your player, the player that sent the input, is now in the dashing state. So I'm telling all of the connected clients to change this player to be in the dashing state. And that's what that does. And so then, let's see. If I'm in, what is it called? State small dash. So in here, we got the same thing, right? The server is handling the actual logic and the collision and stuff. And then all the clients are handling the aim and flip stuff. And actually, oh yeah, right. So this player synchronizer component. So I'm keeping track of the mouse position on everyone's screen as well, or everyone's client. So anyway, yeah. So multiplayer is a little bit. I'm mostly talking through this to refresh my memory, but multiplayer is a little bit. It requires a little bit different way of thinking about the things, but and obviously I think I'm probably gonna have to change a lot of this in terms of. I'm gonna have to change a lot of this in terms of NetFox, because NetFox has a very specific way that they want you to engage with the framework to enable rollbacks and whatnot, or to do client-side prediction. So I'm going to need to handle that, but that's what we're going to be doing in the next sort of section of the stream here. So I'm going to say basic multiplayer helpers in place. Hello, Nepal V, welcome. Hello, Ren Code. Okay, so I need to take a quick, just a quick little break and get myself a new drink, because I've been talking up a storm here. And when I come back, I'm basically going to try to get this NetFox stuff working. So I'm going to see if I can get some input gathering done and then get that working in terms of the players. So obviously I need to spawn players and set their multiplayer authority. So that's going to be the first thing that I need to do when I come back from my break, is I need to, when a player connects, I need to create all of the relevant players at all of the relevant positions, and then make sure that I've got an input gathering node that is owned by each specific client. So we'll see how all that works in just a second here. But before I go on my break, I'd like to mention as well that Gunforged is released. You've probably seen that, so check out the link in the description below. Go to the Gunforged Steam page, purchase it if you can, or if you're interested in it. That'd be very nice. You could also wishlist it if you want to hold off for a little bit. But if you want to support me for free, you can like this video, subscribe to the channel, watch my other videos. I just released a devlog for Gunforged on Monday, so you can watch that if you haven't. Give me a couple minutes, I'll be right back, and we'll get started on getting the players replicated across all the clients. All right, I'm back. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit tricky. So there's a couple of things that I need to do. When I load into the scene, since this is a little bit asynchronous, and I want this to be asynchronous to an extent because I probably need to support, like, if a player drops out of a run due to like a disconnect or something, they need to be able to rejoin. And so solving like how does a player join like after the sort of the level has already loaded is something that I need to solve relatively early, because that's going to be a nightmare to get working right later on. Like if I build the game assuming that everyone has a stable internet connection all the way through for 30 minutes, and then I later say, yeah, if somebody disconnects, 50 minutes through the game and rejoins, I'm gonna have to figure out how to rework a bunch of systems to get that all synchronized, right? So what I'm gonna try to do is build it from the ground up with the idea in mind that you could connect at any point and join the game. So part of that, or like the very, very like early stages of that, is when I load into that level here. You can start now, thank you. When I load into this level and then I join here, I just need to be able to support that. So the first step, I think, is I don't want this player to be here by default. So just the level needs to be here. I'll go ahead and add a resource preloader, I guess, for the player, just so that I can get a reference to that player pretty easily. But I need a script for this. Script main.cs. That'll be fine. Now, I actually don't know how I'm going to do this. So public override void ready. I think that this is where I had the client ready in this. So if I do client ready, signal client ready, this unfortunately is happening at the multiplayer root. Why is that? So I have a comment here. It indicates that the peer has finished loading the scene. I don't know why this is happening at the multiplayer root level. Part of the problem with looking at this Globin's code is that I threw together things very quickly. And so I don't necessarily want to copy exactly what's happening here. I just need to try to understand why these things are here and then put them in a better place. So basically what this is doing is this is notifying when a scene has been loaded. Notify client ready RPC ID. Oops. So this can be called from any peer. Okay. Let me see. I just need to see now how the players are actually being created. So we got a multiplayer spawner here. So yeah, I don't know. So this goes back to what I was saying, this multiplayer spawner here. This is handling the spawning of all kinds of things, bullets, players, etc. Where is the player in here though? Oh, I think that's what this spawn function is. So the multiplayer synchronizer is weird. So this spawn function here, honestly, I don't know what this is doing. Player C.instantiate spawn function. Okay. Okay. I am just going to kind of do my own thing here and see if I can get it to work. That may not be a good idea, but we'll see. We will see. Lurking Neozoid. Thank you, Lance. Had to work, but be playing later today. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so on ready. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's create a method called private void create multiplayer create player. Let's do long peer ID. So I believe in my multiplayer root here, I have a get all peer IDs here. Yeah, so I have this get all peers. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I want to do is I want to get all peers in here. Public int. No, it would be public static long get all peer IDs. Sorry, I keep going back and forth here. Instance multiplayer get peers. So what I need to do is essentially do return instance dot multiplayer dot get peers, and then why are the sometimes this is int and sometimes it's long? I don't understand. Come on, Godot. Why is on peer connected long and then everything else is int? Come on, Godot. Get your ass together, you know? Okay, so I'm just going to return an array that contains all the peers, and maybe I should put the self peer ID first. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say create player long peer ID, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for each var peer ID in multiplayer root or multiplayer manager dot get all peer IDs. We're going to do create player peer ID. But here's the other thing that needs to happen. I also need to create like a client ready in here. So I'm probably going to, let's see. Let's create an RPC. Private void. Client loaded. I'll call it client ready. This is going to be RPC. This is going to be any peer. I do want to call it locally. Transfer mode is equal to transfer mode enum.reliable. Actually, I don't want call local. Do I want call local? There's two ways I could do this. So this call local, remember, that means that you can call it locally. I think I don't want call local actually. So I'm going to create, so when basically what's happening is when the scene loads, I'm going to loop over all of the currently active connected peers, and I'm going to create a player on this client for each of those peers. But the problem is this doesn't handle the situation where people join afterwards, right? And so when somebody joins afterwards, I basically need, as the client, if I'm joining the game that's in progress, what I need to do as a client is broadcast to everyone, hey, I've joined. And so that's what this any peer is doing here. So basically, now what I probably should do is I'm trying to think. Oh man, let me see. If I make it truly server authoritative, I probably just need to. Yeah. Let me look at how client ready is working. So we've got notify client ready, call local reliable. Client ready, instance on connect, on client ready. So I'm only connecting to that signal if the server. I think I want all of this to happen through the server. So this would actually be I want the server to send a message to all the clients that they need to create a player with a certain peer ID. I don't think I want to do that on the client side necessarily. Because if I'm allowed to call client ready to create a client from any peer, then that's vulnerable to, you know, people just repeatedly calling this and creating more players. But if it's required to go to the server first and then the server has to validate, does this peer exist yet or not? Does this player exist yet? Then that can solve that issue. So I think I want to do this. Let's just make it all server based. So if multiplayer manager.is server, we're going to make this an RPC as well. Multiplayer API.rpc mode. It's only callable by authority. And we're going to say call local is true. And then transfer mode, we have to make this reliable. Cool. Okay. I don't know what to do about this client ready just yet, though. So let's get it working on the server side first, and then we'll worry about synchronizing that across the remaining clients. So we're going to create that player. So this needs to become RPC method name dot create player and the args peer ID. So that's going to call create player locally and on all the clients. Now in here, I have a reference to a resource preloader, private resource preloader. So in here I can instantiate that player. So if our player is equal to resource preloader dot instance scene or null player, add child player, player dot global position is equal to vector2.1 times 100. Let's do matthewtil.rng.randf range 150 to 200. Now, if I did this correctly, I should see 2 players on the server side and no players on the client side. So let's see if I did that right. Tears for Peers, my favorite networking band. Really? Good morning, Gunforge has been very fun so far. Thank you, D-Rose. Wondering if you're writing the networking in C# for speed and some other stuff in GDScript. I saw some GDScript. No, so the GDScript project you're seeing is an old project that I made with multiplayer. I'm just borrowing that. Okay, actually, this isn't working the way that I thought it would because... Right. So I need to detect when a new player has connected. So this is where the client ready comes in. So actually, yeah. So this is where the client ready comes in. So I need to be able to do this now. Right. Okay. So what I'll do here is else if I'm not the if I'm not the server, then what I need to do is I need to say RPC ID. We're going to send it to server. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to do private const int server peer ID. It's always 1, but I figured I can just do multiplayer manager.server peer ID. Public server peer ID. I'm going to send an RPC, a remote procedure call, to method name dot client ready. So I, as a peer, so any peer can send a remote procedure call to the server client ready. Now I am going to do a check in here, if not multiplayer manager.is server, because I'm not sure how much Godot enforces this, because I may be able to call this locally as well, which would be bad. So I'm just going to say if I'm not the server, then I'm just going to return. Otherwise, now I'm on the server and I'm being notified that a client is ready. And I should probably put, can I get the client, the calling client ID? I think I can. There's a way that I can do that. Let's look for any peer. Let's see. Get remote sender ID. So that's what I can do. So I know who's calling this, var caller or from peer is equal to multiplayer dot get remote sender ID. So that's going to tell me which peer this came from. And then what I can do is I can do this. I can do this RPC again. This RPC from peer. So this is kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but this is basically what's happening. So when the server loads, this is kind of redundant, I guess, but when the server loads, it's going to loads the game. Actually, this is not redundant because when I have a lobby system and everyone's connected, it's going to create all of those players immediately. And it's going to call that for anyone that's loaded into the game. Otherwise, if I'm a client, if I'm not the server, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the server, hey, I've loaded the scene, I'm ready to go. So that's what this client ready does. So the client ready is going to be called on the server side, and this is just an extra check to make sure that this is being handled by the server. We're going to say, okay, which player told us we were ready? So that's the ID of the player that told us we were ready. Then we're going to do a remote procedure call to all the connected clients, including ourselves, including the server, that we need to create the player with this ID. And then that is going to happen here. So the client, again, the way to think about the client, at least the way I'm thinking about the client, is like it's all event based, right? The client is just sending events to the server and saying, this event happened. I loaded the game. I'm ready to go. I pressed the W key. I pressed the mouse button, right? And then the server is going to be the one that handles instantiating everything and orchestrating everything between all the clients. When you have the client trying to create stuff itself that's related to gameplay, like having entities on the screen, you can get into some trouble there. So just making sure that the server is the authority. The server is the one receiving all these events and then replicating those events across all the clients. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's go ahead and see. What I should see now, if I did this right, is if I go into host here and then I click join, I should see a second player pop up. There we go. So you can see that that's happened. Now, what's happening here is that this player has only been notified of its own creation. So I think what I actually need to do is I can actually do call local here too as well. So I can actually simplify this. I can just say on ready. I'm going to just tell that I'm ready, even if I'm the server. And then what I can do in here is I can iterate over all of these things. RPC method. No, that's not going to work, is it? Wait a minute. Hold on. So the client ready needs to, so this is creating all the players, right? Okay, and then the other thing is I need to do, okay, this is what I'm missing. We need to create all players method here. Now this is going to be an RPC as well. Why do we need that create all players? That's a good question. So in here, so this from peer here, we're going to tell it to, we're basically saying for everyone that's already connected, go ahead and create that player on your screen. But the peer that is just connecting, that is just ready, needs to create all of them. So I need to do RPC ID method name dot create players plural. And this is going to be, we need to send that to the from peer. Wait a minute. Yeah, I did this wrong. We need to send it to from peer create all players. Now the problem here is that I'm going to have a duplicate here. So I probably just need to figure out a better way to do this. Hello, Dione. You're doing this for a place in Gunforge as a new course because I have interest. It's for a new game. New game, which a course may come out of, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so this is going to be, I have to actually get going here in a second, but there's going to be a duplication issue. So on client ready, because this is creating a player for... Can I exclude? Okay. Let's do this. Create players int or long peer IDs. So I can specify now which players I want to create. And then I can do for peer ID in peer IDs. I can do this. I can do multiplayer dot get all peer or get peer multiplayer manager. Get all peer IDs dot where x is not equal to from peer, because we're already creating that from peer. So what's happening is when I get the client ready signal, I'm creating a player object for the peer that sent this signal. But then since that peer is newly ready, it needs to create all the rest of the players too. But I need to exclude the from peer in there. So that's where this is going on. So I'm sending that remote procedure call to the from peer specifically. This remote procedure call is calling create player on all the clients and telling all the clients to create a player with this from peer ID. And then this RPC ID is going to the from peer specifically, telling it to create all players except itself, because that was already handled up here. So that's essentially what's happening. And then I can do create players here. I wonder if this should be networked. I'm not entirely sure. I wonder if I should just do that to be safe. RPC ID, multiplayer manager dot server peer ID, multiplayer manager dot get all peer IDs. Oh, I need to do method name dot create players. Okay, so let's see if that works. 100% network multiplayer, or are you planning local as well? Well, it's going to be built as a multiplayer game, but the way that it'll work, sorry, somebody just started drilling outside my house. The way that it'll work is that you'll be able to play it single player. It'll just be like a local server, or like it'll be using the offline multiplayer peer, which basically will make it so that you're just running a local server, but there's no networking really, you know what I mean? Okay, so that still didn't work. I don't know why that didn't work. Let's see. Do I have any issues? Do I have any bugs? Oh, wrong one. Can I have my little brother controller? We could play it split screen. Maybe. I don't know yet. Oh my gosh, that drilling is super distracting. Literally right outside my door. So I don't know why this isn't working, but oh, because this is just ultimately calling RPC. Oh, I think I just have this loop set up wrong. Okay, I'm gonna need to think about this a little bit more carefully. I think what I could do actually, create players. I don't think I need to do an RPC in here. Let me just try this real quick. This is getting a little bit hairy already, but that's just the nature of multiplayer. So if I host, join. Yeah, okay, so it's still not working. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out what I've got going on here. I think I've got some kind of like circular loop, which is not working great. Client ready. If it's a server, it's creating all the players. I think this RPC, so when this create players is called here, this is doing a remote procedure call, which it shouldn't be doing. I don't know why this doesn't work though. Create player. You know what I'll do? I'm gonna remove this as an RPC. This create players here. I'll just do a remote procedure call to create players, and I'll just pass in a single. If I need to create one player, I'll just pass in a single length array. So now this should be a little bit easier to understand here. So create player is just like a purely client-side function that sets up the player. And then these are the remote procedure calls. So when the client ready happens, it gets that remote sender ID. And I don't want to exclude this anymore. So we want to create all the players. Oh, but we do need to... I do need to call RPC shoot. Okay, this is getting tricky. RPC method name dot create player from peer. So I need to create that player that's connecting or that's ready on all of the other clients, and then also tell that one that just connected that it needs to create the rest of the players. Okay. All right. Well, I'm just going to try this real quick and see if that works. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to end the stream and hold off for now. Ballsy. I haven't gotten around to buy Gunforge yet, but I might soon. Love Enter the Gungeon, so I'll probably love this too. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different than Enter the Gungeon, but yeah, maybe. I think you'll get it. I think you'll get enjoyment out of it. Okay, this is not working at all. Okay, so there must be something that I'm not wrapping my head around here. Unable to get the RPC configuration for the function create player. All right, so yeah, I'm going to need to figure out, oh wait, create, oh, players. There we go. Okay, one more try. And then I really have to get going. Still not working. Okay, I am bamboozled. I thought I had my mind wrapped around this, but I suppose I didn't. I wonder if this is not being marshaled properly. I wonder if I can't send an array like that. That might be the problem. I guess I could log the peer IDs in here and I could make sure. I'd have to do a bunch of logging. I think maybe it's just the way the arguments are being passed is not correct. So I'm going to have to figure that out, but that's all right. Well, shoot. I really wanted to get that working, but let's see. Blair William, new game potential hype. Yes. Server called ready only once, but there are no players yet. No. Well, that's the thing. So all the players are going to send. So if it's the server, it's going to create all the connected players. But if a player is loading this scene, it's going to notify the server that this client is ready, which goes into here. And then that from peer is basically created on all of the clients. And then this RPC ID to the from peer is basically telling it to create all the other players. So I don't know why that's not working, but yeah. Xenoblide. Just want to pop in and say, I hope it all goes well with Gunforge. Thank you. Already bought it, but I have yet to find the time to play it. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to end the stream there because I got to get going. But thank you, everyone, for watching. I very much appreciate this. Let's just say multiplayer work here. Very much appreciate all of your support. And again, yeah, you can purchase Gunforged using the link in the description below. And you can also like this video, subscribe to the channel, watch my other videos. And if you're interested, you could check out my Udemy courses. Those are linked in the description below. They will teach you how to build a complete game in the Godot engine. So thank you, Luca. Thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to all the VOD watchers and lurkers as well. Very much appreciate you. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll be back at it tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. So I hope to see you then. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.